Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're delighted to be able to speak to you about improved planning and tracking of your precast projects. I'm Paul Tate. I'm the VP of StruSoft UK, and I'm joined by my colleague in Denmark, Thomas Gitsas, who's our implementation manager for Impact.
Hello,
welcome.
hello everybody. Thank you for the invite. Nice to be here, and I'm very excited that we are doing this webinar with Paul.
Okay, right. So just some general info about the webinar. We think it's going to take about an hour, but there's going to be a few multiple choice polls during the webinar for you to answer, and we encourage you to take part in those. Thomas is going to give a live demo of Impact and our BIM Contact software. The webinar is being recorded and it'll be available to watch at a later date. So if you need to leave, don't worry, we can get the recording. And you can type questions in the chat on the right. And what we'll do, you can type as you go through the webinar, but what we'll do is try and answer as many as possible as we can at the end. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so I hope everyone can hear us and we'll just crack on. So rather than a set agenda, what we're hoping is to get some key takeaways for you to consider how you can work from multiple locations, which is very relevant in today's climate, how you can plan and keep track of every single precast element through all stages of the process from anywhere in real time, how working with data can provide a single source of truth for your entire precast project, how easy it is now in terms of planning in 3D for the construction sequence, for transport, for the cast or bed planning. And at the end, we'll very quickly just touch on a bit about the files. So things like the shop drawings and how the software can automatically move into locations and synchronize, and how that can also be done to bring in external parties slightly differently. So right, let's just keep going. So what we've got here is like a real simplified kind of organizational chart of the kind of typical actors in a precast project. And just the reason we've done this is it's kind of where we're going to touch through on the planning and tracking. But you've kind of got these key people, and in terms of planning, you're generally working backwards to consider key dates, to consider the availability of production beds, and to work right back to the design department, when they need to get the shop drawings ready. But the reality is, as you're performing through the project, the flow of the information is going the other way. So what we're going to look at today is really this kind of group of people and how they can all be brought in to working with one system. And just thinking about it, once once that foundation's in place, it opens up many benefits to the rest of the business in terms of reporting information, knowing exactly what's going on with the projects, so we'll try and explain this to you as we go through the system. So right, we're just going to do these 3 polls quickly before we get going, because we're kind of interested and curious to know a bit more about you. So what we've got here is a multiple choice. I hope you can see it. So like the first thing we want to know is where are you actually working? I'm actually in an office just down the road from my home, but I've been at StruSoft about 3 years, and I worked from home for 18 months and got sick of it before the pandemic, to be honest. So right, okay, we'll just give on a few more seconds.
I'm also working alone from the office right now, but it's because I'm alone. So I suppose you might have, I think you should click on the screen, and I suppose.
Yeah, right, we've got about 80% vote. Okay, we're going to close the poll and see what the results are. Okay, so actually what's surprising is most people are actually still working from offices.
Yeah, here we're expecting something to be like most of you working from home still. That's great.
So right, we're just making a joke. So right, we also want to know, how are you currently planning and tracking your precast projects? So if we just put up this other poll, we've got some more questions. So how are you working today? Are you using spreadsheets? Has your company developed some form of database? Are you an existing customer? Are you working with Impact? Have you got another bespoke planning software from one of our competitors, perhaps? Or perhaps it's not relevant or you don't know. So, it'd be interesting just to find out how you guys are working. So we'll just give you another 10, 15 seconds to see that.
Let's see the impact heads, people using impact for their planning.
Okay, so I think, okay, anyone else? All right, last 5 seconds. We've got about 3/4 of you voted, so perhaps some of you are not actually doing the planning. Okay, let's close that and let's see what we're doing. So, can you see that?
Yes,
Okay,
spreadsheets.
so spreadsheets. Most of you guys are working with spreadsheets. That's interesting. So hopefully you're going to find this relevant. Okay, so one more poll. Let me just close that one and then bring up the next one. So what do you see as the main issue with planning and tracking your precast projects? The multiple choice questions were limited to 5 answers, so you have to apologize if these aren't relevant. But if there's another answer, always put it in the chat and then we can have a discussion about it at the end. But, do you feel like it takes too long to get the information? You're too reliant on other people? The information's inaccurate? Because perhaps it's spreadsheets, it's all historic information. Or there might be issues perhaps with the programs being slow or they could be crashing. So let's have a look. So we've got about 30% people have voted. So come on, I'll give you another 10 seconds.
I think it's a little bit, let the people read the question they can answer back.
It might be that perhaps these aren't the right answers.
Maybe yes, maybe also.
All right, okay. Let's close this one and put it up. Okay, so what have we got? So we're a bit of a split.
Yeah.
We've got roughly 1/3 of you saying it takes too long to get the information, too reliant on others, the information's inaccurate. So, okay, all right. So hopefully what you see as we go through is going to see how your lives can be improved. Okay, so why is the data and information so disjointed? So been thinking about this, and I had to write an article back in the summer, and I was looking at systems and spreadsheets and things, and giving it some thought. No two precast businesses are the same. There's
Paul, you can close the results. So back your screen. Yeah.
Have you got that?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
So no two precast businesses are the same. There are standards, but these perhaps are localized, but there's no blueprint to follow. Precast businesses tend to grow and they tend to evolve, add factories and different types of machines and new types of elements, and the systems tend to evolve with that. And when you go into some of the larger factories, you can see a huge array of systems being used that have all been established over time. There's huge pressures on precast businesses to prepare the designs, the shop drawings, accurate delivery schedules. We're competing with traditional methods of building, like in situ projects, and the buildings might start life as in situ. People are busy. There's the daily demands and pressures on people means that it's not time to look at other systems. And there's you find is that there's a lot of good data in businesses, but in terms of the information reporting, it's generally poor.
That's true. And also there are a lot of factories also. Here I would like to mention that they have, especially the bigger ones, having their own big IT departments, even though they're using a commercial software like ours. Like, it's so much data that in order to connect it to their own homemade ERP system or their own, different output of information, where they're getting their output. So there are a lot of businesses having, their own software developers keeping up to date with the data.
Yeah, and often you see, there's some intent at the top level, but not many people have got a full view on the whole business. But the reality is, when doing systems change, is that it doesn't start at the top. It needs to be improved from the bottom up, and from the cold face, really. So let's look at this.
This is very important. Like the change should be driven, as you said, from the bottom up instead of the top to bottom.
Okay, so what we're going to show you is a bit different to a spreadsheet. So what's Impact? So Impact is a database, essentially, and that database has been designed to unite three key areas of the precast businesses, from design, production, and the projects. So I've got this graphic here with almost like a tripod, and the database at the top, which is really giving visibility across the whole business. So you're working with one data set, and it's in real time. In 2015, Impact was made available to go in the cloud, so we've got the database and the files hosted. And perhaps Thomas, if you just explain some of the differences with a traditional server, then they can understand.
Basically what we did is, a traditional database set is being placed on a server, it's being placed on a location where the main office is, and then people working through that office, they could access the database normally by just connecting to the Wi-Fi of the company. However, moving to the cloud, then we say that we have a global solution that people from different countries, different continents, different places all over the world can access the same database without needing to connect to the VPN, as we say, to this external internet connection to access the server. In that sense, and especially in nowadays where we're living in this very weird situation all over the world, that people need to connect and need to communicate the data through different countries, different locations, a cloud database is what we propose to the customers to go for.
And I guess when you think of data modeling, you think that you've got to have a specific CAD or 3D software, and you've got to have the specific skills. But what we've done with Impact for the production and project management side of it is we've simplified it. We've made it available for anybody to use and independent from any other design software. And the key thing with Impact is that because no factory is the same, that we never do a project that's the same, and you can take bits of Impact and we tailor it to suit exactly how you're working or the workflows that we want to fix and the number of people. So
I think the previous slide comes also with the expansion of our company, right? Having a lot of different users, a lot of different companies, and of course we will see also later on that the process, is theoretically should be the same, but the workflows are completely different from company to company, and that means that we have developed a software that can be tailor-made, custom-made for your own process.
So if you think about the first slide we showed with the kind of the organizational and the sort of the linear workflow, and perhaps if you think about spreadsheets, everybody is interacting with the data. You're not manually entering data after the event into a spreadsheet. And we've developed tools for all these people to interact with the data to help plan and to help track. So we've got obviously the software on the PCs, but we've done a lot of development with the mobile apps to allow all types of people to interact with it, from drivers, quality managers, the production personnel, people on site. So we're going to show you a bit of this in a sec. Okay. Finally, right, one more poll, and this is really just to try and explain what the database is and how it works. And let me just pull this up. So just want to ask you, let's just find this one. How many of you know what SQL is, or SQL, or structured query language? Now, I was asked this question last week by a guy in Russia. He was asking me to explain the database, and I had no clue how to explain it really. I'm not particularly technical, but I found this video online, and let's have a look at the answers that we've got here. Okay, so most of you don't know what it is. Okay, so right, you can Google this video afterwards. It's kind of geared for beginners and almost kids, but this lady actually comes across very well. So I've edited it into just.
Paul, can you stop the results so we can see the?
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me do that. How do I stop that? Right.
All right.
Okay.
You can go down from here.
Okay, so let me just put up this video. Okay, this lady's going to describe what SQL is in 48 seconds.
SQL stands for Structured Query Language. People call it SQL or SQL. In short, SQL is the name for a language that is used to communicate with databases that store your data. If you want to pull, edit, add information to a database, you can use the language of SQL to do that. But how does SQL work? Think of a database like a warehouse. Data tables like filing cabinets, and data like files. This warehouse or database stores data. The warehouse database was built using coding languages like C++ or C or Java. SQL only speaks to a specific kind of database called a relational database, which is essentially a database that has a tabular schema. So it's a lot like a data table with rows and columns.
Okay. Let me just get my screen back.
Great.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah,
okay,
nice video, Paul.
Right, so the reason I showed that is because Impact under the scenes is a relational database. And now if you look at this screenshot of some of the coding, it looks just like a spreadsheet. And you probably are wondering, why should I move away from a spreadsheet? Why go to something that looks like a spreadsheet? But the reality is, this is all in the background, and what we've developed that makes Impact unique is like this visualization of the data in 3D and interaction. So and bringing in all the possibilities to interact and update everything in real time. So we'll get into it in a second. Just quickly, in terms of the data, and everything is at element level. And Impact was started 30 years ago on design and with HoloCore. And I suppose they weren't sure about how the CAD market was going to play out, and they didn't want to be tied to a particular CAD system. So they made the database independent. And as it's evolved, we've added all types of the main structural elements that you can see on the graphic there, and it handles it, and it's very easy to look up and find stuff. And we're now developing a reinforcement module. But these are the main elements that are handled with Impact. But anything that isn't defined can still be brought in as something as we call a linked element. And a linked element can be anything. It could be architectural cladding. It could be something like steel or in situ concrete. So it opens up possibilities to do more with Impact than just the elements. So what are the data integration possibilities? I don't know how you're all working on the design, and we haven't got a poll on that, but you've got this database. Let's say it's in the cloud. It's independent from any design software. Within the database, when you first get it, is empty, and we set it up to suit exactly what elements you're making, your company standards, your project standards. But you have to get the 3D full functionality, you have to get design data into it. And as I said, we started with CAD, and you can bring in data from AutoCAD and now BricsCAD, and what you're doing there is actually in 3D, even though most people think CAD is probably 2D. The last 8 years, we've developed mapping from Revit, and we've done a lot there, not just with the mapping, but automation and shop drawing possibilities for precast. Thomas is the product owner for something that's called Tekla Base Tools, and we can map in Tekla model data into our database. We can bring in very simple geometry and information from Excel, if you haven't got a model, and you can start the process, or perhaps you're not working with one of the, a particular CAD software. And then there's other ways of bringing in, and IFC will be coming later on this year. So once the data's in, and for you guys, it's doing the planning and the tracking, these are the tools that we've developed to interact with that data. So we've got what's called the project manager, and this allows you to see one project at a time. It allows you to do 3D planning of various things and fine planning of transport and beds. We've another tool called the resource manager, and this allows you to view multiple projects and multiple factories, and you're kind of working in list format, but there's a lot in terms of filters and lookup and pulling information.
This is where you get your top level detail basically for the whole business through the resource manager.
There's also the Impact Go mobile app, which is really like the glue for all the people not working on PCs and wanting to interact with the data. There's something called the element control, and this is to allow any type of control on an element. So for example, you could do a quality control and checks and stuff. We've got a costing module, and we've got custom reports, and there's many types of reports that we can generate specific for to your company from the data. We've got something called the Impact API to connect with other systems, for example, like SAP or an accounting system or something. And then we export that data to various types of machines for automation with mesh, bar bending, plotters, lasers, even shuttering robots. So there's a lot we can do with that data. But what we're going to show you now, we're just going to focus on the planning and the tracking through these key modules here. So
an overview of the planning and production modules that we have, and how these all integrated in the cloud, and how easy it is basically to get information, from one person to another. Yeah.
So back to the flow, Thomas, if you want to take over and just explain, because this is the logic really to Impact.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe most of you, or some of you that have been before in webinars, in production and production planning webinars, have seen a graph like that. But basically what we try to say here, what we try to do, is simplify the process of a precast, right? So what we have done here, we have these two types of phases. We call it planning phase, we call it rough planning, we can call it ghost planning. It is basically a rough estimation from when I get the project, to go from erection, and of course work backwards from my erection date to when the elements should be delivered on the site, to when they should be produced, and according to that date, the production date, I should have also the drawing date when I should have a finished shop drawing. However, of course, when we are performing and when we are doing what we call fine planning in the software, is we start, of course, from the drawing. When the drawing it is produced, and then we go and produce the element in reality, set it up on a lorry, and move it up to the construction site for erection. As simple as that. I think that sketches more or less so we can speak the same language during the live presentation.
Okay. So do you want to take over, Thomas? And
I will change my screen now. I will try to make me the presenter. So my screen. Hope you can see my screen now. This is a model. This is the project manager, as we discussed before. This is just a little model, beginner's course model we developed here at StruSoft. Again, we're a software company. We're not producing ourselves precast elements, so we have some demo models like this one. This one, of course, it was developed into our design tools, but what we're going to see today is basically in an ideal world where the design, or at least a rough model, it is finished. Then we can move into the planning. So a building, of course, can be separated into a lot of different floors. With just double clicking on a floor, you can get different type of visibility. Every element has its own element mark, like the name that you either give it from another software, or the name that you give it from Impact Design, and of course a unique identification number for every element called element ID. So in the ideal world that I was discussing before, and this is just to simplify the process, of course, because I know the process is not just design, production, transport, erection. There are a lot of intermediate stages. The first step that we would propose to start with is when we have a rough model, a rough building, that we can start from the erection sequence. For this example, I have already added the erection sequence beforehand, so we don't have to lose time. Of course, there have been a lot of explanatory videos, explanatory webinars before that they can show you, if you're an existing user, how to do this. So what I'm going to do here is basically show you this erection simulation, one of my favorite features of the software. And I know it seems a little bit fancy. You see how the model, according to the sequence that us as project managers have given, the model is being built up. At this stage now, because I'm alone and Paul is not going to show live anything about the software on his computer, so I will at the same time try to be a project manager to start with, setting the erection sequence and the rough dates. I will also be a production planner, and at the same time I will also be a factory manager or a quality control person who is actually working on the floor. So at this stage of the presentation, consider me a project manager, consider me a person who is opening project manager, gets simple information of the model, a simple geometry, and starts setting up elements according to his his plan for the site and setting them up for erection. Usually we do this, but we never explain why we do this. When I set, even if it's a rough erection sequence, of course I can discuss with my external partners and sit down with them and discuss, we can change this erection sequence. It is very simple to change the erection sequence, but it is very nice to have a model, an actual visualization, the data that we were discussing before, a 3D visibility of the data. And by doing that, when I go to the element IDs, of course, you will see here that I have my erection sequence as a field in the database already set up here. When I do that, then according to my erection sequence now, because I don't have to figure out what element is what element ID is what, I can go and decide when I want those elements to be erected. So I know this one, it's the element that is going to be erected first. So I know that those first 10 elements, they need to be erected on a specific date. So I can just go here, select the date, and say planning, set a date, and this date can be, for example, the 15th, the 16th of April. So I can set this date, say apply, and for the next, for the rest, sandwich walls for my first floor, I can also set a date and say apply. So I will set the day afterwards, or maybe the Monday afterwards. Say apply. I will save the changes. And now what is new? Before we had to set all the dates ourselves. Now the software, according to dependencies, setting the dates, the production, the plant drawing date, the plant production date, the plant storage date, and the delivery date, it sets it automatically according to what we call rough dependencies. So what we did is that the erection date, we want to be the same with the delivery date. Then we work backwards, 5 days backwards for the storage date. The 7-day span is because of the weekend, and we calculate only working days. And of course, backwards 1 day for production and 3 days back for the plant drawing date. Adding this data in the database, now we actually have notified or basically activated a production planner, knowing in the database that those elements here from this specific project has to be produced on the 8th, according to my rough estimation. This thing, of course, according to how busy you are in the factory, can be changed. We can always go 1 day up, one day down. But by changing that, of course, we will also change the expected plant erection date according to the dependencies that we have set. Before I show you, no, I think now. By doing that, I think we should go into the resource manager, where we said now that we have that we can get information for multiple projects. So a project manager jobs, you can say that here it's simply finished, because the project manager now can do that and follow the process. So if I was a production planner now, I get dates here. So I'll go to the resource manager and I'll do the planning from the resource manager. Me as a production planner, I don't really care. I know I can have different element types. I have responsibility for one set or two sets or for the whole factory. So what I do here, set in the database what elements are unplanned, what elements have planned production date from the 5th of April until the 10th of April, press refresh data, and immediately I get all of my different type of elements. As you can see now, it is very, very easy to filter data. Maybe it seems a little bit too complicated here, but I can actually take the project up, see how many different projects I have, take also my element types up, and now if I open, this is the project that I have created for us, and this is just another project, just a test project. So I have 20 sandwich elements here that they need to be produced on this, the 9th and the 8th of April. I can select all of them, go all the way down, find the 9th and the 8th of October of April here in the database, select the available beds that I have for sandwich walls, and of course multicast. Select multicast. I can even use the erection sequence. So according to my erection sequence, they can be planned accordingly. So the ones that they are on the 8th of April first, and the others that they are on the 9th of April afterwards. So I will say start. And the planning and the calendar has been fulfilled. Of course, this, if I double click on the beds, you can see, of course, the detail view, as we discussed before, all the data that we take from the database completely in full 3D, and tolerances preset, your representation of your tables, of your beds, and how it looks. Of course, here we're looking at sandwich walls. You can see the insulation layers. You can see the way that they have been cast on your tables. Going back to the calendar view, and this is something that I would really love to mention now. We are in the resource manager, but if I go back to the project manager now, in this CAS planning again, so if I refresh the data here, the elements, of course, the calendar has been already been fulfilled in here also. So a person who is sitting working a production planner, sitting working in the resource manager, whatever change I do in my calendars has been also added here. The elements have gotten the new plant production dates, and according to that, they got also the new plant erection dates.
What happens? Just quickly show the utilization on the tables, because I think that's quite interesting in terms of planning the capacity. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I think you can see here how utilized you have this 68% or 62%. Of course, this takes into consideration also the height of the table. And you see how much space is left basically on your table, so you know if there are any more elements can be added here. Of course, now we have an upper part which is not utilized properly, but usually, you know, what you want to look into, especially in the calendar view, is, you know, how many linear meters are available. 3.56 meters available, which can easily fit a normal sized wall extra on this table. However, 0.84 meters available, that's very, very difficult to add an extra wall in such a small amount of space. And these are information, again, that you can get immediately if you are getting used to having a calendar like that, which can also be customized to like an Excel calendar with, of course, different colors, different information behind the scenes to show you, you know, all this type of information. Of course, area, you can have time, cost, and different element counts and different amount of information per date, per day. One thing now that I want to show you and has not been utilized in the model view is the statuses. So by putting those elements into the bed, what I have done, if you allow me to update the model, what I've done is actually change the colors, the status colors that we as a company have set into my model. So the model actually, it's a live organ. I love saying that because that's true. It's a live model. Like this building, at any stage, a project manager can sit down again and see only by looking at the colors what stage are we in. So the first floor right now, the first the sandwich walls of the first floor are planned for production. So we know something is happening. We know that these elements are going to be produced. When I select an element, I can, of course, look at the information, at the properties, and I can also see what dates they are. The planned production date, when is the planned delivery date, when is the planned production date, and of course which factory and which division is going to produce this element. Except for, of course, the geometrical information and everything else. What it is also important to know here is that, you know, while I'm doing that, then of course I set cost planning, and this is important. Of course, you can have details. Paul said it very good before about the data. You can open the drawings. We have inbuilt, of course, PDF viewer where you can just open the PDFs and see the shop drawings. This is something with custom-made computers and screens in the factory. You can also get advantage of a feature like that down on the floor, not only as a project manager. So great visibility. The files, we're going to talk about the files at the end of the webinar through this new tool called Beam Contact, where they are shared through the cloud. Everybody can have access to the cloud from all over the world and without VPN connections. Anyways, I just did very fast the sandwich walls for cost planning before I move into a little bit more details and what we like to call the glue. I will also go into the transport planning. So I have my sandwich walls, and now I have set my delivery dates, of course. Now I will select walls, go here, select my in-loader, use element dates, reuse selected templates, and erection sequence reversed, meaning, especially for holocores, we can see it a little bit later, meaning that the element that has that is going to put last on the lorry, on the truck, it's the element that is going to be erected first on the site. So according to that, and now you can see how in a simple transport module, adding the erection sequence, adding the correct date has already saved us a lot of time because of the flow of information. You just need to press OK, and then you create the custom-made transports. We have a transport here that looks like that. Of course, when a transport is created in full 3D, there might be some justifications and some different, you know, adjustments that you need to make on the different stacks. And this is something that, of course, we can do from the stack planning. Every time we create a transport, we create a corresponding stack that we add on the vehicle. And in this specific case, you can see here that this wall is fitting exactly to this, so we can move things around. Of course,
the stacks, just explain the stacks in terms, you know, the stacks is really about the stockyard in terms of the sequence to go from the mold and out into the factory.
This specific stack is, to be honest with you, specifically made for an in-loader. So some people have this type of stacks, some people don't. For example, in walls, in solid walls, I like going directly to the transport and do something like adding the A-frames. So this is also very easy to utilize, and you get something like that. You get the A-frame added up on a truck, and of course the stacks. This, as you can see, this is the whole stack added on a specific type of vehicle. If I go to the actual stack planning, I have my different, you know, my different A-frames where I can actually, you know, move things around. I can drag and drop. I can move down on the sequence, and I can also, you know, make custom-made things here. I can merge the different, you know, I can merge the different elements together.
Just show utilization rates, and Axel explain that as well, Thomas, because that again for planning. It's the utilization rates on the transport and how it works out the center of gravity. Because I think
as you can see here, we have in the transport or even in the stack planning, we have theoretically usage rates according to the actual mass of the inloader and the mass of the stack. So when we exceed the mass of the inloader, or we are like 95%, you see here we're already at the limit of this. For example, if you see here in a situation that we use our holocores, I can select my holocores and create 2 custom-made holocores. I will go select my trailer for holocores. You see now I'm showing a little bit of a different vehicles. I don't want to stay so much in the transport. I have made custom-made webinars specifically for transport. But of course, here you see I have utilization 61%, and then I have utilization 41%. That means that I can easily take this stack, cut it from this one, go into this stack, select here, and paste it in this lorry. Now I basically make 103%, but in this specific situation, I can keep it and of course move my stacks around. And when I move my stacks around, if you focus on this, the line here, this line shows you the center of gravity. And
can you zoom in a bit?
Yeah, I will. Sorry, maybe it's easier to show it like that. This line here shows you the center of gravity, and this.
My eyesight's failing me.
Yeah, and this one is showing you the axle pressure on the axles. So you can either put them next to each other, but again, I don't want to spend so much time on it. I want to show you that if we have the right input of information, if we have the right amount of information in our database, then we can easily use that information to make our life easier. Because what I know the most, and the thing that most people are struggling with, is the struggle between I have a spreadsheet that fills another spreadsheet, which fills another spreadsheet, and then I get information from another spreadsheet. Here, everything works on the background, you get great visibility, and of course, everything is connected. So when I do a job on this holocore, this job is going to follow me during the whole process. I love showing the mobile app. I really do, and that's what I'm going to do here. I will do what Paul said. You can print, custom-made reports here. You can print your cast calendar for the whole week. So we can just have a report.
So we're moving more now into the performance phase.
Yeah, basically, I am now the person working in the factory. I will try to open as much as I can, team viewer and and connect to the team viewer here and add this okay, give me one more second. Again, this is not the easiest way to connect to a mobile phone, but let's see if I can connect now. Yes, now I will start the broadcast. So hopefully in 0 seconds, you will be able to see my screen. Perfect. Now I'm on the mobile app. Some of you have used it before. Now this is live on my hand. My camera is a little bit broken, so it's not going to be very good quality, and I'm sorry for that. So if you press the scan QR code, then you can select the QR code and the elements attached to the bed here. So we have 1, 2. All the information from the database again. What Paul likes to say is, we have seen a lot of different QR codes, a lot of different barcodes, but usually they don't have this type of information. As you can see here,
well,
the amount of information is the same as in the properties. Again, you can perform element controls. I will do very quickly because we have added a new feature where you can add pictures and kind of completed the whole QA/QC controls. You select the control, you go down here, select it, do the symbol checks. You can do this, you can do this symbol check and this symbol check, and then you go to your measure checks, you do this and this and this. Of course, now I'm doing it very fast. I will say save, then you get a date, who did it, when, they did it, and different amount of information. When I go back to my main control, I can say inspect and press up here on the new camera and take a picture. I'll take the picture, I'll use the photo, and I'll save it again. Excuse me for the bad quality. Save it. And what I want you to understand now is that when I save this photo here, immediately I perform the control. It's directly from here. I say save, go back to my properties, and already if I press refresh, this element has changed status. It's status 40. And status 40 immediately means that when I go back to my model and I can show you the whole model again, I can update and show that one of those elements, maybe I should show the first floor for a little bit better visibility, that one of these elements has become orange, and it was the big one, so no need. At the same time, going back to the mobile app for one last time, I can select my bed. When I'm sitting in the factory, I know when the elements are produced. I can select this planned for production, produced, set, and done. This is basically it. So I will disconnect. As you can see here, I'll refresh the data.
So we can put QR codes on any aspect
and
of the process.
Data will show you. Sorry, Paul.
So we can put QR codes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
QR codes can be put on through any part of the process. So delivery notes, CAS reports, quality reports, element labels, and it's all printed just simply through the project manager window there, or the resource manager. And
exactly.
And it's interactive. That's the thing, because it connects to the app, and then you're interacting with the data. A lot of QR codes that we see, they just tell you what the thing you're looking at is. It's just an identification. But the thing, what we've developed is to get everybody in the workflow connected and updating the data as it's going through, as the elements are going through the process. So not one person is responsible for data entry, or a number of people. Everybody is, because it's happening all the time.
Exactly. And the great thing here is that when I go here, of course, I can show you the element control. You can immediately see on that control the picture that I just took from my screen, from my desk. It is already uploaded there, and that is what is so powerful here. One more thing about these controls, of course, as Paul said, in the same way, we can go to the controls here, select from specific dates, and see, what elements we have controls on. So you see here for this SW, I have different types here. You see, you can again see the corresponding pictures for the whole database. Just right here, same thing, just as an overview. You can select multiple, and of course print, a compact or a detailed element control report, as Paul mentioned already, where you can just, see what has been approved, the elements, the project, approved, not approved, yes, approved, who approved it, when, etc., etc. Again, customized, and everything according to your different specifications. The last thing that I want to say here before I finish, and this is maybe a little bit closer to existing customers, is that now working in the cloud, we have this tool working in the background called BIM Contact. So in my database, when I open the BIM Contact folder, you will see here that I have this Amazon Services Europe, where I synchronize my company, my divisions, and my standards. So whenever I make a change here, this is going to be synchronized in the background, and the files and everything from a project are going to be synchronized with everybody within my company. Paul is a little bit more of an expert in the actual BIM Contact, but what I want to say to you is that the normal way of working, at least it has been, is that, when you work on the cloud and you have storage in the cloud, that means that you select your elements, your shop drawings being right here, and then synchronize them. So everybody can access to them, and then the person who wanted to take them should have download them. However, now with the BIM contact, everything happens in the background. You don't have to think about it. And also, Paul is going to show you the actual work on the BIM contact and how it does file synchronization and how it can revise documents and a few things. Just a couple of minutes, Paul. I think it would be great.
Okay.
That was for me. So I will give you back the presenter, Paul, and you can show your screen.
Okay. How's that? Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So what we're considering now in terms of the workflow is how to get information or the flow of information to external parties, perhaps not working within Impact. Sorry, that's a bit mouthful. But like you could be, say, outsourcing your detailing, and you want to keep control in terms of the files and information. You know, I've been involved in a number of projects because we're, as well as software, we're selling services. We've got a company called StruEngineers in India, where we've got about 40 detailers and modelers, and we're working with both precast and RC projects. So what I've seen on some projects is that people are using email to send zip files. People are using Dropbox and having to download things. You know, there's no real control on the information that's been passed. And StruSoft developed this system called BIM Contact, and it's specifically geared to help construction projects. So I'm just going to very quickly just show you a project. But basically, for the StruEngineers projects that we're doing since last summer, we've been providing BIM Contact for free as part of the service. So if I just pull up this project, there's a company in Ireland that we did a few apartment blocks. So every company gets a secure portal. Within that, the portal has permission rights, so you have to have permission to view, view the drive. I'm now in Windows Explorer, but it can also be desktop. And we create these workspaces for moving drawings and information. So these are the apartments that we detailed in India. And if I just say pick a block at random, we've got two folders. It's as simple as that. The client has a folder, and we've got read-only access to it, and they're passing us, the intent or any information we need to produce the drawings. And then we've got our folder where the client's got read-only access, and we've got, we've got full permissions. So I'll just show you. So you manage the permissions for the people in your portal. It's dead easy. You just drag this slide bar and give them either none, read, or edit. Within that, we organize our projects either by element types or within the blocks.
I think what's important here to see the extra functionalities that we can revise the drawings, that you can actually open the drawing, comment on the drawing, has like a real PDF kind of feeling that you can write, that you can edit, and then add comments or even sign them and do different custom-made revisions.
Yeah, so there's 300 built-in viewers, but specifically for construction projects, we've got PDF, DWG, and IFC viewers, and you can comment on the files. What's this one taking? So that's just a shop drawing of it's actually a core. It's just a solid wall element that's been done with Impact CAD and passed back to the client. But the thing is that if there's any changes or comments, they can just quickly write on here. But in terms of the files, if things are updated throughout the process, we've got version and revision control. So, for example, on this one here, you can see the full history of the files. So if we just go on manage versions, and you can see the timestamp when it was first created, and you still get every file from the previous one. So there's full history of the project, but you only got the latest file within the folder. So this is very powerful actually, and it's the feedback we've had from all the projects since we've been running it last summer has been very positive. So in terms of in terms of the environment and the workflow, we've got Impact handling the data, and now Impact linked with BIM Contact in terms of the files and lookup through the model that you saw there. But then for external parties, we've got this process that you can also follow and keep track. And
basically now you can connect everybody, the people in the site, everybody with a drawing or like all of your impact folders without the use of the VPN. I mean, that is, and if some of you don't know what a VPN is, like is the connection to the Wi-Fi, like as simple as possible, to the Wi-Fi office, where the server is located. Now everybody can get access from all over the world. Yeah, Paul just put here a nice slide of how to get started. I think here is what you need to take out from that is, me as personal as an implementation manager, I can say that, we can start, as soon as possible. The implementation process doesn't take, or the beginning process doesn't take more than a couple of weeks to start with. But of course, as I said before, the amount of data that we put in the database is going to get us where we want when we have like a big amount of data to get all this information to top level. So of course, when you get the database, it is empty, we work with it, and when we reach a point, it might take 6 months, it might take a year to have a real flow of a lot of projects at the same time, then we can say that we are working everything through Impact. And of course, it takes takes time. We have, for me, it is important that the unlimited support, updates, and of course, a great team of developers developing great features every trimester where we release a new update.
All right, okay. Well, that's it from us. So an opportunity if you want to ask us any questions, and we'll take them live. Interesting to know what your reaction is to this if you haven't seen it before. If you're using a spreadsheet, do you see this being able to work in your business? Perhaps what do you think the challenges might be to get the workflow connected and get people working with this? So feel free to ask what you want, and we'll try and answer as many in the time that we've got left. Let's have a look. And also, while we're just waiting for any questions, if you want to find out more, we've obviously got the StruSoft website. We've got a YouTube channel, and there's loads and loads of stuff on YouTube, lots of webinars and explainer videos and training and all sorts for all our software, not just Impact. We've got something called the Impact Wiki, and it's separate to the main website. And this is where we put all the release notes, all the technical information about Impact and all the different modules. It's quite comprehensive. And if you're interested, I recommend going and having a look there. And there's also all the information on, what hardware, what PCs, what if you're having a physical server or a cloud server. And then we've got an Impact blog that we launched this year, and it's just giving us an opportunity to put up some project references and just put up more content really outside of the other platforms. So feel free to have a look at those. Have we got any questions there?
Yeah, we have a question, like how do you deal with site reworks? Someone is asking. And do
you want to show?
If we mean by, when we say site reworks, do we mean here like changing the sequence or changing or doing controls?
It's control. So something's gone to site, and let's say it's been damaged in transport, I guess, or damaged in handling. How do we deal with that?
Yeah, we can always, as we showed before, like an element can have, its own element label, right? Stick onto it. You can scan it with a mobile phone from wherever you are in the world and create a rejection. So, or a disorder, which will immediately give a disorder in the database for the project manager. We'll come back with a solution. If the elements need to be recast, then the elements get rejected, recast, and the process starts from the beginning. So great. I suppose.
So Thomas sort of touched on that with the mobile app, but the mobile app's not just for the factory.
No.
You know, the mobile apps for everybody, even the guys out on site. So you can apply the controls, and you can set up any control. You know, it's fully customizable. So
yeah,
and we've got that now. Thomas has been working on a project in Saudi, and that's something that we've been doing there.
Exactly. So basically, one of the biggest questions that I get, of course, is like, you know, what happens when we deliver something and it's damaged and stuff? Like, simple as that. We have an extra control. They do controls on the side. You can have as many different types of controls as you want, as long as you add them to the different types of elements, right? So you can do the control. If it's damaged and it doesn't pass the inspection, then you can immediately create a rejection. Very, very easy to do it from the software. Again, we have a lot of videos to do these things, and of course you can contact me personally, me or Paul, and I can show you, you know, in a live demo how to do those, you know, small specific details in the software.
All right. Okay. So we've been an hour. Let's just leave it there. If we've got any more questions, we're just going to come back to you on the email. Okay. We hope you enjoyed that. We appreciate the opportunity to show you. And you know, if you're using spreadsheets and struggling with your planning and tracking, then you know, please get in touch. You know, we'll be delighted to discuss it and see if we can support you. So, okay.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you for giving us the demo. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Paul, for the invite. Thanks a lot for your time, and I wish you all a nice afternoon.
Okay. All the best. Cheers.
Bye-bye.